what you want to do is to...
Meet Father Richard Holong, priest, missionary, and composer of most of the songs that are presented in this video. Evidently, this gifted individual could have made a fairly successful career from his intuitive musical talents. But Richard Holong had determined that his life's work would focus on another vocation. Since 1981, he has devoted his time, energies, and passion to countless many whose circumstances have made them homeless and destitute. But his devotion to those who he served did not entirely displace the music. For almost 3 decades, Holong's socially conscious yet highly entertaining music has delighted and challenged thousands in Jamaica, North America, and Canada. Rather than conflicting with his life's work, he found the music to be complementary.
I see that the Lord has given this music really so that we may serve the poor. We offer free service, and there's no job, nothing that pays a salary. And then here comes the surprise, the music, all these songs, and you realize that the Lord wanted these songs so that they can put the food on the table, can bring joy to people, to our homeless, bring happiness to all those who know of Christ.
Richard Holong is not alone in his passion to help the poor. Every day, some 115 brothers work freely and tirelessly to fulfill one singular mission: to channel God's love to those who have been most acutely affected by society's negligence and rejection, including those whom society with its modern thinking have determined to be unproductive.
When the elderly people have reached a certain age of, again, question of not being productive, their own people cast them away. I have seen a lot of old people just left to us at the gate, or maybe a taxi will drop in and just drop the old people there, and they say, "Who are you?" Say, "My son dropped me here." "And where do you live?" And because of their senility, they don't know where they are.
Younger souls, too, enter this place and find rest. Each one has suffered the chill of society's cold, neglect, and scorn. Their hurt is deep, their burden heavy. AIDS ravages both body and soul. But such suffering is always short-lived. AIDS does not relent. In the between, the missionaries of the poor make the waiting a little easier to endure.
The people with AIDS are considered really those who are scourged with what would be modern-day leprosy. And they are the ones that are most hated and reviled and forgotten, and everyone wants to distance themselves from them. These people that we take in who are in their final days are also the ones that are most tragic and have got to confront the very hard question as to how they have lived and how they are in the sight of God. I think the worst thing to do is to die in despair.
Our infants and young children are probably among the most vulnerable to many of life's harsh injustices. Father Holong and the missionaries of the poor provide care for many of these little people too. One of them is young Trishana. She cannot see, she cannot hear. Most of us would probably shudder were we to try to imagine a meaningful existence without sight and sound. But this young life's realities are constantly dark and silent. Fortunately, Trishana can feel the touch and embrace of those who do not see her blindness and deafness as a license to discount her own personal worth.
She is like an angel.
The Lord has made everybody different. whether it is someone with a who's terribly crippled, someone who's blind, someone who's disfigured facially, somebody who's mentally retarded. I think that these are like all flowers in a garden, very, very different, and are to be appreciated as they are.
People are not commodities. They are human beings, and for them to live and to exist really matters.
They are also God's children. I could have been in the same place. You know, who decides that?
In the routine course of their life of free service to the poor and destitute, the missionaries of the poor deal with many of life's untouchables, those individuals who have been ignored or discarded by society's callous conscience because caring would have been inconvenient, expensive, embarrassing, or just too messy to handle. Jack Levy was one such individual.
So many calls came in that day. The police, the hospital. When I arrived there with two more brothers, I mean, I couldn't believe what I saw. This man lying, and practically the whole of his head was eaten already.
He was close to being dead, and a doctor had told me that Jack would not live.
His left hand was broken in 3 pieces, all crooked. And he was so thin, dehydrated. Our presence there made people realize that we are there to really care for the least. No matter who they are, the conditions that they might be finding themselves in.
It is not that person or this person that we are loving or we are called to love. It is the Lord who is present in all of them.
When he had been cared for and he got a little bowl of soup, brother just fed him little by little. You could see the tears coming from his eyes, and he held the brother's hands, you know, and he just squeezed his hand, and he said, I have found a home. And you knew the purpose and the intention of our vocation is fulfilled in such moments.
This is what Jesus is really going to ask of everyone when he comes. I mean, did you really love me in the poor? Did you visited me when I was sick? Did you clothe me when I was naked? Did you give me water when I was thirsty?
No doubt there are many who rejoice with the poor and destitute over the selfless devotion of Father Holong and the missionaries of the poor. But reaching out and caring for those on the outer margins of society need not, indeed ought not, be confined to the efforts of a few.
It is for every person to find his level in life as to where and how can he serve the least of our brothers.
We need talented people with all kinds of various gifts to offer their talents. Musicians, architects, computer analysts, people who can drive, people with strong shoulders, people with big hearts. We need food, we need clothing, we need medicines, we need money to build, because we always are trying to expand to take care of the people.
See what you can sacrifice for these people. Maybe you can sacrifice a little of what you believe to be like smoking, or what you can do for spending money for drinking, for a ticket to a movie or whatever. And maybe out of that what you spare, maybe you can lend and give it to the poor. As Jesus said it, as much as you do it to the least of my brothers, you do it unto me.
There's one thing that every person and every human being can do, which is to love.